Hiya folks, welcome back to The Back Porch. I'm Ricky Alexander.
And I'm Meg Farrell.
We're here today with Evan Christopher, who is one of the authorities, possibly the authority, on New Orleans-style clarinet playing. Welcome to the show, Evan.
Thank you, Ricky. Thank you, Meg.
So can I ask you, for a lot of the people at home, they might not quite understand off the bat when you say New Orleans music specifically and traditional jazz. Can you tell us about what is the primary difference?
I think there's a lot of overlap. The reason I make a distinction between traditional New Orleans music and then early jazz, even though the early jazz records, they feature a lot of the musicians that left New Orleans. I guess because when I got to New Orleans, nobody wanted me to play clarinet like Johnny Dodds with the Hot Fives, or like Omer Simeon with Jello Roll Morton, or Barney Bigard with Duke Ellington in the 20s. So even though I consider these New Orleans clarinet players, and there were similarities in their style that set them apart from any other type of clarinet playing in the world, I quickly learned that what was expected of me in New Orleans wasn't that. There were just sort of differences in how the music got approached that kind of led me to make the distinction. And
what are those approaches, though?
They're playing melody almost all the time. Variations of the melody, certainly, and their own versions of the melody, and then the second thing that they were doing is kind of, people would say collective improvisation, but I say collective orchestration, because they're actually making up arrangements on the spot. They're not really improvising all at the same time.
Yeah.
They're kind of approximating their roles as it would be in a written piece of music.
Understanding music in that way, like how to group orchestrate in that way, how do you think that influences how you play up here in New York with people with more of the New York soloing tradition? And how what's the play going on for you?
I guess I just kind of don't really do much jazz music. I jokingly tell people that I'm not really ever doing anything but playing the melody over and over and over, and they don't believe me because it might not sound like it. But in my head, that's all that's happening.
Yeah.
I'm not, And when I teach, it's the same thing. I usually ask my students to forget anything that they might know about chord changes and scales and things like that, and let's just go back to the melody and have some fun.
Tired. I'm really tired.
I want to ask you, and for those of you at home that aren't clarinet players, so there's two kinds of clarinets. There's the Bain system, which is kind of the standard classical one, and then there's this Albert system, which is very rare nowadays, and it's got a big sound. Can you talk to us about this clarinet?
So the Albert system clarinet, it kind of is a little bit more like oboe, or maybe even a little bit more like flute, a little bit. The German and Austrian musicians still play sort of a complicated version of this. So what they do is actually more similar. Their instruments, their orchestral players are playing an instrument that's more similar to Albert system than the Bain system. The Albert system I favored because when I was learning about these New Orleans clarinet players and the Creole clarinet players of other places, and actually it turns out that even other ethnic music traditions that have clarinet in them, they were all playing the Albert system. I said, oh, well, I want to sound like that, so I guess I got to play the Albert system, and I kind of learned how to switch. And it turns out that there are, big sounding Bain system clarinets as well. They just kind of fell out of favor at a certain point in time with orchestral players. And then there's also Albert system horns that are actually kind of not as big sounding. It just,
oh, really?
But the fingering system, the way the keys are arranged are different enough that something about it brings you closer to the vocabulary of these traditional musics.
Yeah, it really affects your accent.
Do you play Albert or
I
Bain?
don't. I'm jealous because I love the.
You can notice it.
I love
They're
the.
very photogenic, right?
It's-
It is very
It's
pretty
nice,
too.
sexy,
Totally
wraparound
beautiful with
octave
the
key,
curve.
and yeah.
And then these, I like the look of these. It's like a saxophone.
Yeah. This one's quite photogenic. It's almost 100 years old, this one.
That's incredible.
Yeah.
Most clarinets get blown out, or
Sure.
they don't last a long time.
This
but,
one may be blown out. I wouldn't know. I wouldn't know the difference.
well, you mentioned earlier that it's made of hard rubber, which
This
I
particular one,
I didn't realize in the 20s that they were making clarinets out of hard rubber. Is it common?
For Selmer, this might have been a one-off.
Why?
Kenny DeVerne sold this to me.
Cool.
Violins and string instruments, they appreciate in value, and they're made of wood, right? So why wouldn't clarinets? Because people forget that the inside of a violin isn't changing, right? We are blowing this warm, moist air into these instruments, and it's causing the instrument to expand, and outside might be causing it to contract, and the wood says, ouch, and then cracks. And
Yeah, explodes on the gig, yeah.
But violins don't, there's nothing happening on the inside.
You're not blowing hot air into a violin.
Right.